In a world where royal duties often feel distant and ceremonial, one moment of genuine human connection can change everything. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped into a small classroom filled with nervous teenagers, she carried more than just her royal title. She brought with her a mission that would touch hearts, break down barriers, and prove that sometimes the most powerful crown a person can wear is simply showing up when others need it most. This is the story of how a single week transformed not just the students she met, but revealed the true power of authentic leadership in our modern world. The morning mist clung to the grounds of Kensington Palace as Catherine, Princess of Wales, reviewed her schedule for what would become one of the most meaningful weeks of her royal career. Mental Health Awareness Week was approaching, and unlike previous years filled with formal ceremonies and ribbon cuttings, this time would be different. She had specifically requested a more hands-on approach, wanting to connect directly with young people who were struggling with mental health challenges. Her private secretary had initially suggested the usual format of brief visits and photo opportunities. But Catherine had been firm in her response. She wanted real conversations, genuine interactions, and the chance to truly understand what today's students were experiencing. The statistics were alarming. 1 in 4 young people reported feeling anxious or depressed, and suicide rates among teenagers had reached unprecedented levels. These weren't just numbers on a government report to her. They represented real lives, real pain, and real opportunities for healing. The idea had actually begun months earlier, during a quiet evening at Adelaide Cottage. Catherine had been helping her own children with homework when her youngest had mentioned a classmate who seemed sad all the time. The innocent observation from her child had sparked something deeper in Catherine's mind. If her own children, growing up in a privileged environment, were already aware of mental health struggles among their peers, what must it be like for students facing additional pressures of poverty, family instability, or social isolation? That night, she had called her team to propose a different kind of royal engagement. Instead of the typical 1-hour visit with carefully orchestrated activities, she wanted to spend an entire week visiting different schools, youth centres, and mental health facilities. She wanted to sit with students, listen to their stories, and learn from mental health professionals who worked with young people every day. The proposal had raised eyebrows within the royal household. Security concerns were immediately flagged, scheduling conflicts identified, and the potential for negative publicity discussed. But Catherine had remained steadfast. She reminded her advisors that her role as Princess of Wales came with both privilege and responsibility, and she intended to use that privilege to shine a light on issues that truly mattered. Her first stop was planned for Millfield Secondary School in East London, a diverse institution serving students from various socio-economic backgrounds. The school had recently implemented a comprehensive mental health support program after experiencing several concerning incidents involving student well-being. When the invitation to host the princess had arrived, the headmistress, Sarah Morrison, had been both thrilled and terrified. Sarah had worked in education for over 20 years and had seen firsthand how mental health issues among young people had evolved and intensified. She remembered when student problems primarily involved academic struggles or minor behavioral issues. Now, her staff regularly dealt with anxiety attacks, self-harm, eating disorders, and depression among students as young as 11 years old. The week before Catherine's visit, Sarah held special assemblies to prepare her students. She explained that this wasn't going to be a formal royal visit with everyone standing in lines and applauding politely. Instead, the princess wanted to join regular classes, participate in mental health workshops, and have honest conversations about the challenges young people faced. 16-year-old Marcus Thompson had rolled his eyes when the announcement was first made. Like many of his peers, he viewed royal visits as publicity stunts that had little relevance to his daily reality. Marcus lived with his grandmother in a cramped council flat, worked part-time at a local grocery store to help with household expenses, and struggled with anxiety that often made it difficult for him to sleep or concentrate on his studies. His skepticism wasn't unusual among the student body. Many of them came from families where making ends meet was a constant struggle, where university seemed like an impossible dream, and where mental health support was often seen as a luxury they couldn't afford. The idea that a princess could understand or relate to their experiences seemed laughable to some. However, as the week progressed and more details about the visit emerged, curiosity began to replace cynicism. Students learned that Catherine had specifically requested to participate in their peer support group sessions where young people helped each other work through difficulties. She wanted to observe their mindfulness classes, join their art therapy sessions, and even eat lunch in the regular cafeteria rather than in the headmistress's office. 15-year-old Amelia Chen found herself surprisingly excited about the visit. Amelia had been struggling with social anxiety for months, often eating lunch alone and finding it difficult to participate in class discussions. She had recently started attending the school's mental health support group, where students shared coping strategies and supported each other through difficult times. The group had become a lifeline for Amelia, providing her with tools to manage her anxiety and, more importantly, showing her that she wasn't alone in her struggles. When she learned that the princess would be joining one of their sessions, she felt a mixture of nervousness and hope. Perhaps having someone with such a public profile acknowledge the importance of mental health support would help reduce the stigma she and her friends often felt. 3 days before the visit, Catherine made an unprecedented decision that would set the tone for everything that followed. She arranged a private video call with a small group of students from the school, including Marcus and Amelia. The call was informal, conducted from her home office at Kensington Palace, with Catherine wearing a simple sweater and speaking in a relaxed, conversational tone. During the 30-minute call, she asked the students about their experiences with mental health support at school, what worked well, and what could be improved. She listened attentively as Marcus described the pressure he felt to succeed academically while also working to support his family. She nodded with understanding when Amelia shared her struggles with social anxiety and how the peer support group had helped her gain confidence. Most remarkably, Catherine shared some of her own experiences with anxiety, particularly around public speaking and the pressure of royal duties. She spoke about techniques she had learned to manage stress and the importance of seeking support when needed. The students were surprised by her openness and began to see her not as an untouchable royal figure, but as someone who genuinely understood their struggles. Word of the video call spread throughout the school, and the atmosphere began to shift. Students who had been indifferent or skeptical started to show genuine interest in the upcoming visit. Teachers noticed increased participation in mental health awareness activities and more students signing up for support services. The ripple effects extended beyond the school walls. Parents who had initially dismissed the visit as another royal photo opportunity began to take notice when their children came home excited about discussing mental health and emotional well-being. Some parents, who had been reluctant to acknowledge their own children's struggles, started having more open conversations about mental health at home. On the Sunday evening before her scheduled visit, Catherine took a quiet walk through Kensington Gardens, reflecting on the week ahead. She thought about her own journey with mental health advocacy, which had begun years earlier when she first learned about the connection between early childhood experiences and lifelong emotional well-being. Her work with various mental health organizations had taught her that young people often felt unheard and misunderstood by adults, particularly those in positions of authority. She had seen how transformative it could be when adults took the time to truly listen to young people's experiences without judgment or the immediate urge to offer solutions. As she prepared for bed that night, Catherine reviewed her notes from the video call with the students. She had been struck by their maturity, their insight into their own mental health needs, and their desire to help their peers. These weren't troubled young people who needed saving. They were resilient individuals who simply needed support, understanding, and the tools to thrive. The stage was set for a week that would challenge preconceptions, create genuine connections, and demonstrate the power of authentic engagement with young people's mental health needs. Neither Catherine nor the students could have predicted just how profoundly the experience would impact everyone involved, or how their interactions would spark conversations about mental health support that would continue long after the camera stopped rolling and the royal visit became a cherished memory. Monday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine streaming through the windows of Millfield Secondary School. Catherine's arrival was deliberately low-key, with minimal security presence and no red carpet or formal reception line. Instead, she was greeted by Headmistress Sarah Morrison and a small group of student ambassadors in the school's main entrance, surrounded by the typical Monday morning bustle of students heading to their first classes. The first surprise came when Catherine asked if she could walk through the corridors like any other visitor, stopping to chat with students at their lockers and observing the natural flow of school life. This wasn't part of the original itinerary, but her security team had learned to adapt to her spontaneous approach to royal engagements. As she walked down the corridor, Catherine noticed a group of Year 9 students huddled around their phones, looking distressed. Rather than walking past, she approached them and gently asked if everything was all right. The students, initially shocked to see the Princess of Wales standing before them, explained that they were worried about their friend who had been absent from school for several days and wasn't responding to messages. This moment perfectly encapsulated Catherine's approach to mental health advocacy. Instead of offering quick reassurances or moving on to the scheduled activities, she spent 15 minutes talking with the students about friendship, support, and when to seek help from trusted adults. She praised them for caring about their friend and suggested they speak with their form tutor about their concerns. The students later described this interaction as feeling completely natural, as if they were talking to a caring adult rather than a member of the royal family. Word of the encounter spread quickly through the school, setting a tone of genuine care and accessibility that would characterize the entire week. Catherine's first formal activity was joining a Year 10 English class, where students were studying poetry about emotions and mental health. The teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had initially been nervous about conducting a normal lesson with royal observers, but Catherine immediately put everyone at ease by sitting among the students rather than at the front of the classroom. The class was discussing a poem by Maya Angelou about resilience, and Catherine listened intently as 17-year-old James shared his interpretation of the text. James had been reluctant to participate in class discussions due to his stutter, but something about Catherine's attentive presence encouraged him to speak up. When he finished his thoughtful analysis, Catherine complimented his insight and asked follow-up questions that showed she had been genuinely listening. After the class, James approached Catherine with tears in his eyes. He explained that he had always felt embarrassed about his stutter and often avoided speaking in public. Her respectful attention and genuine interest in his ideas had given him confidence he hadn't felt in years. This interaction would prove to be life-changing for James, who went on to join the school's debate team and eventually pursue public speaking opportunities. The day's most impactful moment came during the peer support group session that Amelia Chen had been both anticipating and dreading. The group of 8 students met in a comfortable room decorated with inspirational quotes and soft seating arrangements. Catherine arrived a few minutes early and helped arrange the chairs in a circle, immediately establishing herself as a participant rather than an observer. The session was facilitated by the school's mental health coordinator, Miss Patricia Williams, who had worked with young people for over a decade. She began by explaining the group's guidelines: confidentiality, respect, and the understanding that everyone's experiences were valid. Catherine nodded along with the other participants, and when Miss Williams asked if she'd like to introduce herself, she simply said, "I'm Catherine, and I'm here to learn from all of you." Amelia was the first student to share that day, describing her journey with social anxiety and how the support group had helped her develop coping strategies. As she spoke about her fears of judgment and her struggle to make friends, Catherine listened with visible empathy, occasionally nodding or offering encouraging smiles. When Amelia finished, Catherine thanked her for her courage in sharing and asked if she could share something similar from her own experience. She talked about her early days as a royal bride, when the pressure of public scrutiny had triggered anxiety attacks that she had initially tried to hide. She described learning breathing techniques, seeking professional support, and gradually building confidence through practice and self-compassion. The impact of this sharing was immediate and profound. Other students began opening up about their own experiences with unprecedented honesty. Marcus talked about the guilt he felt for struggling with anxiety when his family was already dealing with financial stress. 16-year-old Sophie shared her experience with depression following her parents' difficult divorce. 15-year-old Ahmed described the cultural barriers he faced in discussing mental health within his family. Throughout these conversations, Catherine offered support and validation without trying to solve everyone's problems. She asked thoughtful questions, shared relevant resources, and most importantly, she listened with her full attention. The students later described feeling truly seen and heard, perhaps for the first time in their lives. The lunch period brought another spontaneous moment that would become legendary within the school community. Catherine had planned to eat with the senior staff, but when she saw Marcus sitting alone in the cafeteria, she asked if she could join him. Word spread quickly, and soon their table was surrounded by curious students who were invited to sit and chat. The conversation ranged from favorite subjects and career aspirations to deeper discussions about mental health stigma and the challenges facing young people. Catherine shared stories about her own school days, her nervousness about public speaking, and her passion for supporting young people's emotional well-being. During this lunch conversation, something remarkable happened. Students began connecting with each other in ways they hadn't before. Amelia discovered that Sophie shared her love of art and anxiety about social situations. Marcus learned that Ahmed also worked part-time to help his family and understood the pressure of balancing work and studies. These connections, facilitated by Catherine's presence and genuine interest, would develop into lasting friendships and mutual support systems. The afternoon brought Catherine to an art therapy session, where students expressed their emotions through creative activities. The art teacher, Mr. Bio says, David Thompson, had initially worried about how to conduct a normal session with such a high-profile visitor, but Catherine's enthusiasm for the activities put everyone at ease. She participated fully in the session, creating her own artwork alongside the students and sharing in the therapeutic process of expressing emotions through art. When 17-year-old Maya shared that her painting represented her journey from darkness to light following a period of depression, Catherine responded with warmth and admiration for her courage and artistic talent. The session culminated in a group discussion about how art could be used as a tool for emotional expression and healing. Catherine shared how she had personally found comfort in photography during stressful periods, and how creative activities could provide an outlet for feelings that were difficult to express in words. As the first day concluded, Catherine met with the school's mental health team to debrief and learn about their approaches to supporting student well-being. She asked detailed questions about their programs, their challenges, and their successes. The staff were impressed by her knowledge of mental health issues and her genuine interest in learning from their expertise. The evening brought an unexpected development. Several students had asked if they could write letters to Catherine about their experiences and their hopes for mental health support in schools. Rather than routing these through official channels, Catherine provided her personal assistant's contact information and promised to read every letter personally. The letters began arriving that very evening, and Catherine spent hours reading heartfelt accounts of students' struggles and triumphs. Many expressed gratitude for her approach to the visit, noting that she had treated them as equals rather than as subjects to be pitied or fixed. Others shared additional details about their mental health journeys, feeling safe to open up in writing about experiences they hadn't felt comfortable sharing in person. One letter from Marcus particularly moved Catherine. He wrote about how her willingness to share her own anxiety experiences had helped him realize that struggling with mental health didn't make him weak or broken. He described feeling hopeful about his future for the first time in months and expressed gratitude for her authentic approach to royal duties. Amelia's letter focused on the impact of seeing someone in such a public position speak openly about mental health. She wrote about how Catherine's example had inspired her to be more open with her family about her anxiety and to consider pursuing advocacy work herself in the future. As Catherine prepared for the second day of her visit, she reflected on the profound connections that had already been formed. The students had exceeded her expectations with their maturity, insight, and resilience. Their willingness to share their experiences had taught her valuable lessons about the realities facing young people today. She realized that her preconceptions about royal visits had been challenged as well. This wasn't about her bringing inspiration or solutions to struggling young people. It was about mutual learning, authentic connection, and the power of genuine human interaction across social boundaries. The foundation had been laid for what would become a transformative week, not just for the students involved, but for Catherine's understanding of her role as a royal advocate for mental health. The genuine smiles and meaningful conversations of the first day were just the beginning of a journey that would reshape how everyone involved thought about mental health, support, and the power of authentic connection. The remaining days of Catherine's Mental Health Awareness Week visit unfolded with increasing depth and impact, as the initial connections deepened into meaningful relationships and genuine transformation. By Tuesday morning, the atmosphere at Millfield Secondary School had shifted palpably. Students who had never spoken about mental health were initiating conversations, and those who had felt isolated were discovering unexpected support networks. Catherine's second day began with a visit to the school's counselling centre, where she met with professional therapists and peer counsellors who worked with students facing various mental health challenges. The centre, tucked away in a quiet corner of the school building, had previously been underutilised due to stigma and lack of awareness. However, following Monday's open discussions, appointment requests had increased dramatically overnight. Dr. Rachel Kumar, the school's lead counsellor, shared statistics that illustrated the growing need for mental health support among young people. She explained how social media pressure, academic stress, family difficulties, and uncertainty about the future had created what she called a perfect storm for youth mental health challenges. Catherine listened intently, asking probing questions about resources, training needs, and the barriers students faced in seeking help. The conversation was interrupted by a gentle knock on the door. Ahmed, one of the students from Monday's peer support group, stood nervously in the doorway. He had never visited the counselling centre before, but watching Catherine's genuine engagement with mental health issues had given him the courage to seek professional support for anxiety he had been experiencing about his family's immigration status and his academic future. Dr. Kumar welcomed Ahmed warmly, and Catherine congratulated him on his courage in seeking help. This spontaneous moment perfectly illustrated the ripple effects of open mental health discussions, as students began to see seeking support as a sign of strength rather than weakness. Throughout the week, Catherine continued her pattern of genuine engagement and authentic connection. She joined mindfulness sessions where she practiced breathing exercises alongside students, participated in group therapy discussions where she shared her own coping strategies, and even helped serve lunch in the cafeteria while chatting with students about their dreams and challenges. Wednesday brought an unexpected crisis that would test everyone's newly developed openness about mental health. During the morning break, a Year 8 student named Lucy experienced a severe anxiety attack in the corridor. Instead of the usual response of curious onlookers or awkward avoidance, students immediately rallied to provide support, using techniques they had learned during the week's activities. Marcus, who had been struggling with his own anxiety, calmly helped clear space around Lucy while talking her through breathing exercises. Amelia, despite her own social anxiety, fetched a teacher and stayed with Lucy to provide comfort. When Catherine arrived on the scene, she found a group of young people effectively managing a mental health crisis with compassion and competence. Rather than taking over the situation, Catherine supported the students' efforts and praised their response. She later reflected that this moment demonstrated the true success of mental health education. Young people equipped with tools and confidence to support each other during difficult times. The week's most powerful moment came during Thursday's extended peer support session. The group had grown from 8 to 15 students, with others requesting to join after hearing about the positive experiences from their peers. Catherine had become a regular participant, sharing her own ongoing journey with mental health and learning from the students' perspectives. During this session, Sophie shared that she had finally found the courage to tell her parents about her depression and had asked for professional help. James announced that he had signed up to give a presentation at the school's upcoming Mental Health Awareness Assembly, despite his previous fear of public speaking. Maya revealed that she had started a mental health awareness art project and hoped to display her work to help other students feel less alone. Most remarkably, the students had begun supporting each other outside of the formal sessions. Amelia and Sophie had discovered their shared love of art and had started meeting regularly to create together. Marcus and Ahmed had formed a study group that combined academic support with emotional encouragement. These organic connections, fostered by the safe space created during the week's activities, were developing into lasting friendships and support networks. Catherine's role in these developments was that of a catalyst rather than a leader. Her willingness to be vulnerable about her own mental health journey had created permission for others to do the same. Her respectful listening and genuine interest had validated the students' experiences and encouraged them to value their own insights and wisdom. The week culminated in a special assembly on Friday afternoon, but this wasn't the typical formal presentation with a royal speech and polite applause. Instead, the students had requested the opportunity to share their experiences of the week and their hopes for ongoing mental health support at the school. James, who had been terrified of public speaking at the beginning of the week, delivered a powerful presentation about overcoming stigma and finding his voice. His speech was met with genuine applause and visible emotion from his fellow students and teachers. The transformation in his confidence and self-expression was remarkable to witness. Amelia, who had started the week eating lunch alone, stood before the assembly to talk about the importance of peer support and the courage required to ask for help. Her words resonated with students throughout the school, many of whom had similar experiences with social anxiety and isolation. Marcus shared his story of balancing work, family responsibilities, and academic pressure while managing anxiety. His honesty about his struggles and his gratitude for the support he had received inspired other students facing similar challenges to seek help and support. Catherine's contribution to the assembly was brief but impactful. She spoke about what she had learned from the students, emphasizing their wisdom, resilience, and capacity for supporting each other. She announced that her foundation would be providing ongoing funding for mental health programs at the school, and that she hoped to continue learning from the students' experiences in the future. Most significantly, she announced the creation of a new Youth Mental Health Advisory Board, with several of the Millfield students invited to serve as founding members. This board would help shape mental health initiatives across schools and youth organizations, ensuring that young people's voices were central to program development and implementation. The immediate impact of the week was evident in the school's atmosphere. Students were more open about discussing mental health, more likely to seek support when needed, and more capable of supporting their peers during difficult times. The counseling center reported a significant increase in appointments, but rather than being overwhelmed by crisis interventions, they were seeing more students seeking preventive support and early intervention. Teachers noticed improvements in classroom dynamics, with students showing greater empathy for each other and increased willingness to discuss emotional topics in appropriate academic contexts. The peer support group expanded into a larger mental health club that met weekly and organized awareness events throughout the school year. The ripple effects extended far beyond the school walls. parents reported having more open conversations about mental health with their children, with many seeking family counseling or individual support for the first time. Local mental health organizations saw increased interest in youth programs and volunteer opportunities. Media coverage of the visit focused not on the typical royal glamour, but on the substantive discussions about mental health and the authentic connections formed between Catherine and the students. This coverage helped normalize conversations about youth mental health and highlighted the importance of listening to young people's experiences and insights. 3 months after the visit, the transformation of Millfield Secondary School remained evident. The students who had participated in the week's activities had become informal mental health advocates within their peer groups. Academic performance had improved as students learned to manage stress and anxiety more effectively. Most importantly, the culture of the school had shifted to one where seeking help was seen as normal and courageous rather than shameful or weak. Catherine maintained her connections with several of the students, receiving regular updates on their progress and continuing to learn from their experiences. Their letters and emails informed her ongoing mental health advocacy work and influenced policy recommendations she made to government officials and mental health organizations. The success of the Millfield visit became a model for future royal engagements focused on mental health. Other schools requested similar visits, and Catherine's approach of authentic engagement and mutual learning was adopted by other mental health advocates and organizations working with young people. Years later, the students who participated in that transformative week would look back on it as a turning point in their lives, not because a princess had visited their school, but because they had been given the tools, support, and confidence to take charge of their own mental health and to support others in their journey toward emotional well-being. The true measure of the week's success wasn't in the media coverage or the awards it generated, but in the lasting friendships formed, the lives changed, and the ongoing commitment to mental health support that continued long after the royal visit ended. It proved that authentic engagement, mutual respect, and genuine care could create transformative experiences that benefit everyone involved, regardless of their social status or position in life. Catherine's smiles with the students during Mental Health Awareness Week represented far more than photo opportunities or public relations gestures. They captured moments of genuine human connection, mutual learning, and the beginning of lasting relationships that would continue to impact mental health advocacy and support for young people for years to come. The week demonstrated that the most powerful tool in mental health support is often the simplest, authentic human connection and the courage to be vulnerable with one another.